It's an all tight end show on Locked On Packers with Jermichael Finley and Kyle Rudolph joining us. So let's stick with tight ends. Could Tucker Kraft be the bucket getter this offense needs?
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the number one Packers podcast on the internet. And the show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. We have Jermichael Finley on the show today from Radio Row. We have Kyle Rudolph, former Minnesota Vikings tight end. We talk Packers-Vikings rivalries. That's coming up on the show. We talked to Jermichael Finley about Jordan Love's development, about this receiver one question, about that 2011 team that also didn't really have a receiver one, but also had like 5 receiver ones on it. So let's start, because this is the all tight end show, with Tucker Kraft. And one of the reasons why I think it's important that we start with Tucker Kraft is because in this discussion of who could be the bucket getter in this offense, whether it's a veteran or whatever you feel like you have to do if you're the Packers, they need someone. And I put it to Josh Jacobs and A.J. Dillon. I said, what's the play? And they both kind of looked at me like, okay, with Devontae Adams, you know the answer. Well, Tucker Kraft had a very particular set of skills, like Liam Neeson had taken. In the low red zone, he was going to get the tight end screens, and then they had the play action shot plays for him, the big crossing routes, what I call the mini Y leak. And then there was the outlets. That was most of what he was doing. And so I think some of the numbers are going to be a little skewed for him. But Tucker Kraft last year, top 10 in receiving, just period. Top 10 in receiving. If you just want to do pure, like you don't want to get into the advanced stats, he was 7th in yards among tight ends. 7th. Okay. He was 7th in touchdowns among tight ends. And this is not being a guy who produced a lot of raw production in terms of catches. 20th in tight ends in receptions. He was creating big plays when he was getting the ball. That's partially by design. So he ended up 5th in receiving EPA. In fact, finished ahead of Brock Bowers in receiving EPA, despite the fact that Brock Bowers had 100 catches. Where he also was outstanding, and we talked about this all year, the opportunities that they could create for him to then create for the offense. In after catch situations, he was 2nd in yards after catch, above expectation. This is a next gen stat. So what did he create above what you would expect a player in that situation to create? Only George Kittle created more yak above expectation than Tucker Kraft. The 49ers essentially decided last year, they had Deebo Samuel on the team. And they decided without Brandon Ayuk, this is going to be kind of George Kittle's offense. And he was an all-pro. But here's the question that I think is most important, okay? Can he get open? Can he get open? Among tight ends that ran at least 300 routes, which is not a ton, but like if you're a starting tight end in the NFL over the course of the year, you probably ran 300 routes. He was 2nd in yards per catch, only to George Kittle, and 2nd in average separation, according to Next Gen Stats. That means he was winning. He was getting open. That is very, very useful. Very, very useful. in this offense. He just didn't get that many opportunities to do that. With more opportunities, I think it's reasonable to believe that he could win those. Like the one that I go back to all the time is in the red zone against the Lions. He bodies up a safety. Jordan Love rifles a slant in there, and he uses his body position. He shields the defender, and he gets a touchdown. It was a huge play that they called for him, not a screen, hey, kind of gimmicky. No, you got to go be a receiver. You got to go win. This is on you, one-on-one, to go take care of it. And he was able to do it. Matt LaFleur, excited after the year, talking about the potential opportunities Tucker Kraft could have in this system. Yes, we can do more. I mean, again, LaFleur has no poker face, but was very excited about the opportunities that they could create for Tucker Kraft. Now, when you look at the Pro Football Focus numbers against man coverage, they're not great. I have to be honest. 29th in grade against man. The yards per route run number, like you look at the best guys in the league, they're over 3. Tucker Kraft, 25th in yards per route run against man coverage. But he also didn't get that many opportunities. Only 10 catches in 12 targets. So that seems good. An 83% catch rate. Only 10% of his total targets were against man coverage. So this is a pretty small part of what he was able to do. It makes sense that if he gets more opportunities, he could create more. That's kind of been his MO his whole career, right? Because this last year, even the year before, he got an opportunity to do that and showed he was capable. I think overall, you can use Tucker Kraft to say on 3rd and 6, we can dial up a play for you. I think his route running is good enough for that. I think his hands are good enough for that. And all else fails, you run a little slant arrow, little old slant flat, and you got Tucker Kraft out there. If the corner is going to sag off, or at least is going to run with the receiver if it's man coverage, now you're one-on-one, probably with a linebacker, maybe with a safety, and I trust Tucker Kraft to go win that battle. Even if it's 3rd and 6 and it's a 2-yard throw, I trust Tucker Kraft to go get 2 yards, 3 yards, and then it sets up at the very least a manageable 4th down, or he goes and picks up the 1st down. We saw him in the playoff game. They ran a little RPO screen to Tucker Kraft, and he picked up 10 or 12 yards. I love the adjustment that the Eagles made in that game. The Packers show all-out pressure, and they throw in a little 2-by-1 set. Dallas Goedert, they throw a little receiver screen to him. That was the one where he did unspeakable things to Packers defenders and route to the end zone. Tucker Kraft is capable of making plays like that. Every step of the way, when the Packers have asked him to do more, he has said, "Thank you, sir. May I have another?" He has proven time and again he is capable of handling more of the responsibilities in this offense. And then after the season, he's standing in front of the cameras going, "Please, not just on the field, off the field, let me take more of the leadership responsibilities. Give me more." We are witnessing what is the potential of a star rise in Tucker Kraft. And then you can still use Luke Musgrave in the vertical ways on runaway routes. There's still plenty of opportunities to use him, sort of like a Mike Gesicki kind of player. But Tucker Kraft can do not just the dirty work, but you have to find ways where he's not just chip release. So what are the opportunities? What are the routes? What are the concepts that you can find for him? Is it just, hey, split him out and let him go work? See what that looks like. Could you build a Ravens-esque offense? around Jordan Love. Run heavy if you want to do that. I don't, but if you do, big personnel, and then let Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews be the focal points for your offense. I understand Lamar Jackson does a lot for that offense in terms of the run game. Same with Josh Allen. But there's so much more Tucker Kraft can do. And the Packers, if they give him an opportunity, I think they will find he can do it. Let's hear from these tight ends. Let's start with Jermichael Finley on the Packers veteran question, on the receiver one questions, on the Jordan Love questions. That's next on Locked On Packers. Football season may be over, but basketball is in full swing, and there's no better way to stay in the game than with PrizePicks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With PrizePicks, you just pick more or less on at least 2-player projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. 1,000. Why wouldn't you want to do that? 1,000 times, not a misprint. That's the actual total. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDON for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL. Yes, it's basketball season, but Locked On NFL is the code because this is a Locked On NFL show. For $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. We're here, Radio Row, Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans. And hey, look, I found another Packer, Jermichael Finley, with us, Rainbow Field. It's like you never left.
It's like I never left, man. Home away from home. That's what that is.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Packers a little bit here, because at the end of last year, it was very optimistic, even though they lost. And this year, even though they won more games, it didn't feel the same ending this season.
Right.
Did you have years like that where you're like, yeah, I guess we were better, but it didn't feel that way?
Yeah, I actually did, actually. It was a year where, you put so much hard work in, and then you come into the season and you barely miss it, and then you leave it like, dang, did we give it all we had?
Yeah.
And it's just part of the nature of the business. You know what I mean? You got to know the Bills, the Raiders, they doing the same thing we're doing. They're praying to the same God we're praying to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what you have to do is come in and make sure you're doing what the next player's not doing, preparing like the next player's not doing. So, and that's what we try to do with that 2011 team when we won the championship.
That's right. I remember hearing Chris Paul say after they lost in the playoffs, I think it was JJ Redick relaying the story of like, dang, we got to do this all over again.
Yeah,
like, did you feel that feeling?
You do, because you go from mini camps, you go from OTAs, you go back to mini camps, and then you go to training camp. So it's so much preparation involved in it. It's kind of fatiguing, especially if you have a 8, 10, to 12-year career. It's like repetitive. You're going back over through the same installs, the plays that you learned 5 or 6 years in a row. You know what I mean? So it takes a toll on your mind.
And your body, right? Because you got to go through the whole off-season training, yes, rehab, all that stuff.
But obviously, if it takes a toll on your brain and it's taking a toll on your body, so and obviously it falls down from there.
When you watch someone like Jordan Love, there's a little Aaron Rodgers in there, right?
Yeah, it is. But it's just like if I was to sit here and see how you work and see how you do things for 4 to 5 years, you tend to take tendencies from the guy that's in front of you, right? So I think Jordan, he took a ton of tendencies from Aaron Rodgers, the side throw, the quick twitch, all the things that Jordan Love is really dynamic in. I think he took it from Aaron Rodgers for sure.
Anything you hope he didn't pick up from Aaron Rodgers?
Maybe a little bit of like, I guess, brattiness, if you want to say, a little bit of prima donna. But I think Jordan does a good job with just keeping poise, keeping just easy peasy.
One of the things that we heard from a lot of the guys was they need a little bit more leadership. It's the youngest team in the league.
Yeah.
And you guys were always young teams, but it seemed like you always also, there were a couple key veteran guys who got everybody going.
Yep.
Speak to the value of having those kinds of players. When you get Julius Peppers in 2014, those kinds of guys. Yeah, of course.
Yes, I think that's very vital to a organization because you got Jordan Love who's getting paid the big dollars, and I saw where Matt LaFleur came out and said, "I need you more vocal."
Yeah,
you know what I mean. If we give you all of this X amount of dollars, like we're gonna need you to talk a little bit. You know what I mean? Not just walk around and doing your job. If you're a leader and you're known to not be like vocal, you got to be vocal at some point.
I was going to ask you about that. Like, we hear from, I remember Jimmy Graham. He's not going to say a lot. Julius Peppers, he's not going to say a lot, but he's going to be that example for you.
Right.
But there is a difference when you're the guy getting, hey, that's not good enough. We got to get on this detail, or we got to get these things, because that was one of the things we heard coming out of the year was the details were not on point.
The details wasn't on point. I think because that's involved with moving pieces, involved with young players.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You tend to have hiccups here and there, but if you continue to pound it, chop wood, and get after it, them kind of things disappear. You know what I mean? Inside the locker room. And I think Green Bay done a very good job. I think they're very close from a championship, and I'm looking forward to this upcoming season.
When you had that 2011 team, when it was just like it was dudes everywhere.
Dudes.
And the conversation we heard Josh Jacobs say yesterday, hey, the Packers, we love Jaden Reed, we love Dontavian Wicks, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson. They need a dude, like a number one, a bona fide number one.
Yep.
You guys had like 5 on that team, so that was a little different.
It was different.
But do you like what is the value, do you think, of having someone like that, and do you think they maybe need that?
Yeah, they do. I was just talking about that over there with the Packers radio. I think we need a dude. We need a dude anywhere a dude can fit. If that's on the defense, if on the receiver, we just need a icon. And I see that Myles Garrett has entered the chat with Green Bay. So that's what kind of pivot they need.
What about someone like Davante Adams coming back?
Davante Adams coming back, I think he can require a leadership in the locker room. His play on the field, he may got one more year of play, but I think he requires leadership in the locker room most definitely.
All right, let's talk about this. By the way, these I've done that with the leg sleeves.
Yep.
With Revive, but tell me about the Mueller partnership you got going.
Mueller Revive, man, is one of the best bags that that I have ever put on. I'm a big time runner now. I have some wear and tear on me, obviously.
Yeah.
So I throw these bags on, and after the bags, I finish that. My legs are light and fresh and ready to go.
Even at like you're still like in playing bulk conditions.
I'm in playing shape right now.
So you're still, but you like to run now?
I like to run. So I'll wake up probably 5:36, and I get on my Peloton and hit probably 2 to 3 miles a morning, every morning.
Wow.
At 6'5", 260.
I mean, look, if you can do that, I'm more power to you. But that's why you get the sleeves.
That's why I put the sleeves on. They got the shoulder, they got the growing area, and man, what a product that Mueller and Revive have put out. It's pretty sweet.
What are we going to see next from you?
Next for me is now I train kids in Elevate You. It's a company that we travel all around the country, and we go try to get high intensity with kids and show them how to eat, show them how to train, and show them how to get to a point where they can take care of themselves. And you know what I mean? If that's at the NFL, if that's being a doctor, just showing them how to be a professional. Thank you, man. You're the man. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks to Jermichael Finley for joining us from Radio Row in New Orleans. Let's talk to Kyle Rudolph, former Minnesota Viking. He's seen the rivalries. We talk about him. We talked about the tight end's impact on the Super Bowl. Turned out it didn't do it very much. It's certainly not on the Travis Kelce side. But it's still an interesting conversation. That's next on Locked On Packers. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started. There's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch 3, I never feel like I miss my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. We're here, Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans. Kyle Rudolph, longtime NFL tight end, Minnesota Viking. A lot to get to here because this is actually a great tight end Super Bowl. Dallas Goedert, Travis Kelce, and we've seen this was like the year of the tight end. Brock Bowers, a lot of guys really coming through here. Why do you think that's the case right now?
Well, I mean, you can go back and look at a lot of the previous Super Bowl winners, and the common denominator typically is a good tight end. When you have a good tight end, it gives you so much flexibility on offense. As they say, it's the quarterback's best friend. And I think the tight end position, not only in this game on Sunday with Dallas Goedert and Travis Kelce, but the tight end position across our league, it's in great hands. Some of the young guys, you mentioned Brock Bowers, Sam Laporta, Trey McBride, these guys are all playing at a really, really high level. It's a ton of fun to watch. I think you're seeing an easier transition from college to the NFL. These NFL coordinators are starting to incorporate a lot of college principles, a lot of college style, which is great. The opportunity of back in the day, no, you got to be this prototypical tight end. You got to block this guy and look like that, and just in my opinion, eliminates a lot of athleticism.
That seems to be a big part of it too, though. It's like before, if you wanted to play tight end in the NFL, you had to be an inline guy. You had to be able to block defensive ends, kick guys out, and now they're sort of like, as long as you can catch touchdowns, we kind of don't care. I mean, they do, but
no, 100%. And it's up to the offensive coordinator then. If you have a guy who is 235 pounds and can't be in line and shouldn't be in line, well, it's your job not to put him in line.
Yeah.
But you got to find ways because he's such a mismatch for defenses. Can't cover him with a third or fourth corner. Can't cover him with a linebacker. Can't cover him with a safety. So ultimately, it's up to the offensive coordinator to then figure out, like, okay, how do I still run the football? How do I still use him in the run game without lining him up next to the tackle and ultimately making him block defensive ends?
This Chiefs team, they're going for the three-peat. Patrick Mahomes, even his he's not throwing 50 touchdowns. He's so great week in and week out, and he just feels inevitable. Kind of. Was there anyone when you were playing, whether it was a team or a player on the other side, where you're just like, man, I just don't know what we're going to do against these guys?
That was the Patriots. Yeah. When you think about the Patriots and their ability to win close games, a run that, quite honestly, I never thought we'd see again. The 10 Super Bowl appearances, and now a decade later, you have the Chiefs going on the best 6-year run ever. No one's ever been to 5 Super Bowls in 6 years. No one's ever three-peated. They have the opportunity to do that. So having the opportunity to win a three-peat, 3 Super Bowls in a row, I think it solidifies them as the greatest decade-long dynasty. Obviously, the Patriots did it for 2.
Yeah, it's crazy.
A lot of stuff has to go right to be able to sustain this success for 20 years, but you can't argue with what they've done over the last 10.
I have to ask you, because we're in front of the Lambeau Field sign, about your time in Minnesota. That's a lot of Packer games. That rivalry, I think especially when you were there, that was sort of like the rivalry in the NFC North. What were those games like? You had Aaron Rodgers. I mean, a lot of great players on both sides in a lot of those matchups. Yeah,
I mean, I think for us, during my time in Minnesota, we knew it was going through us. It was either us or Green Bay.
Yeah.
And usually whoever had the upper hand in our individual matchups would have the upper hand in the division. And a lot of great battles with them. They got the best of us early in my career. We kind of found some success there towards the middle. But it was always a great battle. A rivalry which, in my opinion, there was just respect. So much respect for the organization, sustained greatness over a long period of time. Obviously, you look at like 3 quarterbacks in my entire lifetime. I had 3 quarterbacks by week 4 of my second year. So it's just an organization that you admire, you respect, but you also love to beat. Because I knew it's like when we were beating Green Bay, we were having the upper hand in the division, having the likelihood of hosting a playoff game instead of having to go to Green Bay in the wild card round. So yes, an organization that was always tough, but you had that admiration and respect for.
Let's talk about Good Sports while you're here.
Yeah, Good Sports is an incredible organization that I'm fortunate to work with and be here on behalf. Sports are such a huge part of my life.
Yeah.
And to think that 75% of parents are considering taking their kids out of sports because they can't afford it, don't have the means to provide for their kids. It's gotten
really expensive.
It's gotten extremely expensive. And sports taught me so much about life. so many lessons about how to be a good person, how to be a good teammate, how to handle adversity, that these kids will ultimately be robbed of that opportunity if it wasn't for an organization like Good Sports to step up.
All right, thanks to Jermichael Finley. Thanks to Kyle Rudolph for joining me from Radio Row. Awesome to talk with them. Back tomorrow, we're going to talk about defense. We're going to talk about pass rushing. Yes, we will do that tomorrow on Locked On Packers. Follow me on all the social medias, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on all the social medias. Go subscribe. Leave a rating. If you have never left a rating for our show, it really helps us find new audiences because it shows up in their feed. Hey, maybe you like this. Sounds great. Help other people. If you like us, help other people find us. How about that? And of course, over on YouTube, maybe you like watching the show. A remarkable number of you actually prefer that as your mode. To me, I listen to podcasts, but a lot of you go on YouTube and you love to watch them, and that's great. I love that for you. So please go subscribe so you can stay Locked On Packers.